You think financial power starts with money, but by the end, you realize money was only the bait. It starts before sunrise. 4 minutes before the market opens, with you sitting under fluorescent lights at 23 years old, staring at 3 monitors, 1 cold coffee, and a future you are still innocent enough to want. Your badge says first-year analyst, but what it really means is disposable. You have $94 million in debt, a salary that once sounded huge, and a managing director who made more today than you will make all year. So you do what everyone below power does first. You stay quiet, run the numbers, and pretend exhaustion is ambition. Level 1 is not about intelligence. It is about endurance. You learn to read a 10K in 40 minutes because nobody cares if you are tired. You learn which partner smiles before destroying someone. You learn which emails require an answer in 3 minutes. And then one morning, buried inside a model, you see the mistake. It is small on the screen, almost invisible, just one number sitting in the wrong place. But the error is worth $2 million. Your pulse jumps. Your first instinct is to say something. Your second instinct is sharper. You quietly fix it in your own file, save the clean version, and tell no one, because the machine has just taught you its first secret. The system does not reward honesty the way you imagined. It rewards discretion. It rewards people who know what to notice and what to bury. Your work enters a $430 million deal, but you never meet the client, never see the boardroom, never hear your name spoken. You are just the invisible floor holding up the room above you. 2 years later, you reach level 2, and for the first time, you are close enough to smell the leather chairs. Not the main room yet, just the side room where associates wait with laptops open and faces blank. But you are inside the walls now. You are not only formatting models anymore. You are shaping pieces of real structure. You draft terms on a $180 million mezzanine financing and sit across from a CFO who finally looks at you like you are part of the deal. He asks about a covenant breach scenario. You answer without blinking because you have run it 40 times in 1 week. That tiny nod he gives you feels like oxygen in a room designed to suffocate you. The deal is a leveraged buyout of a regional logistics company, and everybody knows what happens after deals like this. Operational cuts, cost reductions, people in towns you will never visit losing jobs they built their lives around. But nobody asks you to model the human cost. They ask for EBITDA margins and debt service coverage. So that is what you give them. You collect your bonus and tell yourself you only ran the numbers. You do not think about Ohio. You do not picture the loading docks, the drivers, the warehouse managers, the families waiting at kitchen tables. You learn the second rule: proximity to capital is proximity to power. And proximity to power means standing near decisions you wish belonged to someone else. By the end of level 2, you start building your first loyalty network. A VP who brings you into rooms. An associate who feeds you information. You protect each other, not because you are friends, but because usefulness is the first currency above survival. And once you understand that you are no longer just working inside the machine, you are beginning to become it. Level 3 begins when you stop measuring your life in hours and start measuring it in deal flow. You are managing people now. 4 analysts, 2 associates. Their mistakes become your problems. Their all-nighters become your leverage. You do not ask if anyone is okay anymore. You ask if the output is clean, because now the machine has handed you smaller machines to control. You close your first transaction independently, a $620 million acquisition financing European infrastructure in Southeast Asia. Your managing director's name sits proudly on the cover sheet. Your name hides on page 6. But inside the room, something changes. The client stops looking past you. When the numbers get complicated, his eyes move to you. That is the first real taste of power, not the bonus, not the title. The moment a room full of expensive suits waits for your answer before moving forward. You explain the debt structure, the repayment path, the pressure points. You sound calm because calm is what people buy at this level. Inside, you feel the floor shifting under your feet. But clarity comes with a price. You now see the ethical architecture more sharply. The target company has pension obligations. The acquiring fund needs a 22% return. The restructuring makes the math work. You understand exactly what that means for retirees who already gave their working lives to a company now being optimized on a spreadsheet. Nobody says retirees in the meeting. Nobody says fear. Nobody says grandfather, widow, or medicine. They say liabilities. They say legacy obligations. They say post-close efficiency. You say nothing because the deal is executable. And at this level, executable has started to replace good. That replacement happens quietly, and it changes you before you notice. The deal closes in 11 weeks. Your year-end cut is $480 million. You wire $40 million to your parents and feel, for one clean moment, like every sacrifice was worth it. You buy a 2-bedroom apartment in a city where 2 bedrooms means you made it. You stand inside the empty living room, smiling at the skyline, while something inside you avoids the mirror. You tell yourself the pension situation was already broken. Maybe it was. You tell yourself the fund only exposed reality. Maybe that is true too. The dangerous part is not the lie. The dangerous part is that your explanations are becoming smarter, smoother, easier to believe. You are not losing your conscience all at once. You are training it to speak finance. Level 4 arrives when you stop waiting for deals and start finding them. You are not just executing anymore. You are sourcing. Clients call you directly now, not your managing director. You. Private equity shops send you whispers before sending documents. Your inbox becomes less like communication and more like a private map of where money wants to move next. You manage a $1, $2 billion book of advisory mandates. You sit on pitches as the senior banker. Your associate runs the model. Your VP coordinates diligence. You sell the vision. You sell certainty. You sell the strange comfort of believing that someone in the room knows exactly what is happening, even when everyone is guessing in more expensive language. Then you lose one. Not because the numbers were wrong, not because your structure failed. You lose $2, $8 billion mandate because a competing banker went to the same private club as the chairman. One relationship beats 6 months of work. You do not explode. You do not complain. You join 2 clubs that same month and something colder opens inside you. Level 5 teaches you the real product was never the spreadsheet. It was access. You begin to understand informational leverage, the quiet power of knowing things before the world is allowed to know them. You know which company is exploring a strategic review. You know which sovereign fund is building a position. You do not trade on it. You do not have to. The knowing changes how you move. You speak with more certainty because uncertainty reaches you earlier than it reaches others. You watch markets react to headlines you mentally priced weeks ago. People call you sharp. They call you disciplined. They call you unusually calm. They do not understand that calm is easier when the storm sends you its schedule in advance. Level 6 begins when the bank no longer owns the client relationship. You do. 12 client relationships sit under your name, each worth millions in annual fees. You are not just working for the institution anymore. In a quiet, dangerous way. You are the institution's face, voice, memory, and promise to people who can move oceans of capital with one call. You sit on an internal credit committee reviewing a $900 million revolving facility for a company with a deteriorating balance sheet. The credit is not clean. Everyone knows it. The risk memo says all the right cautious things. But losing the relationship would cost 3 times the exposure, so you vote yes and watch politics wear a finance costume. At this level, decisions stop looking like decisions. They look like inevitability. You travel constantly, Singapore, Zurich, Abu Dhabi, Dubai. You sit at dinners with ministers, sovereign investors, and family office heirs who speak softly because they have never needed volume. These are not meals. They are maintenance rituals for invisible bridges money crosses later. You learn that capital does not follow returns alone. It follows trust, political alignment, regulatory comfort, and the strange private feeling that the right people are already standing on the same side of history. The best trade in the world can die without trust. A mediocre one can live if enough powerful people need it to. Level 7 arrives with a title that sounds impressive but feels more like a sentence. Partner. Your name is not literally on the door, but everyone knows which doors open because of it. You have carried interest now. Skin in the deals. Skin in the fund. Skin in outcomes so large that morality begins to blur into performance. You stop optimizing for the annual bonus. That belongs to younger people still addicted to applause. You think in 5-year fund cycles now. You think in decades. You lead a $4, $3 billion acquisition of a European energy infrastructure company across 4 regulatory jurisdictions, 2 competing bids, and 3 months of negotiations where every sentence has legal consequences. The closing dinner is in London. The handshake happens in a room that does not appear on any floor plan. Your consortium includes your fund, a Middle Eastern sovereign co-investor, and a Canadian pension. Cameras are nowhere. Phones stay face down. The room is quiet in the way only extremely expensive rooms can be quiet. You structure the offshore holding through Luxembourg and a Cayman feeder. The tax efficiency is substantial. The structure is entirely legal. Attorneys in Dublin and Singapore have blessed it from every angle. You sign without hesitation. The deal adds 180 basis points to net IRR, and your carry on this one transaction may become $40 million. That is when normal life starts sounding small. Level 8 is when your social world narrows without anyone officially telling you to narrow it. You stop attending most events, not because you are too busy, but because the conversations do not move anything. People talk about restaurants, vacations, headlines, gossip. You smile politely, but your mind is already back with the people who control capital. That morning, 2 calls arrive. One is from a sovereign wealth fund in the Gulf with $7 billion seeking deployment. They want your fund to anchor future deal flow. You are one of only 3 firms even being considered. The second call is not from a banker. It is from a finance ministry, not an assistant, the minister himself. You take both calls from the same corner office on the 44th floor. No trading screens, no shouting, no frantic Bloomberg terminal. Just glass, silence, and a phone that connects you to people who can move entire asset classes before most of the world finishes breakfast. You realize the room is quiet because the noise is happening somewhere beneath you. At this level, you are no longer simply in the market. The market is partly inside you. Your positioning, your tone, your hesitation, your deployment decisions become signals other people study. When you buy, others watch. When you pull back. Analysts write for weeks trying to decode a silence you did not even mean to send. You sit on 3 corporate boards. You advise a multilateral development bank's infrastructure program. Twice a year, you brief the government on capital market conditions. You do not call it lobbying. That distinction matters to you. You advise. You inform. You offer perspective. But the influence lands in the same place, whether anyone says the quiet part out loud or not. The consequences are harder to feel now because they are spread too widely. A fund return improves here. A restructuring happens there. A factory closes 6 months later. A pension adjusts. A currency weakens. A government delays a project. No single meeting feels cruel. No single signature feels violent. That is what makes it so easy to keep signing. Level 9 begins when the moral architecture becomes almost completely abstract. You do not feel layoffs downstream. You feel fund performance. You do not feel rent pressure in another country. You feel basis points. You do not feel the human weight of a decision because the system has divided that weight across committees, lawyers, memos, and markets until no one has to hold it alone. The 7th rule becomes clear only after it is too late to use it as a warning there is no outside perspective anymore. You are the perspective. Younger bankers quote your phrasing in meetings. Clients repeat your assumptions as if they are facts. Regulators listen carefully when you choose your words. You are no longer just interpreting reality. You are helping manufacture it. And then level 10 arrives quietly. No dramatic promotion. No new business card that can explain what you are. Senior advisor. Chairman emeritus. Family office principal. All technically accurate. None of them true. Your power no longer needs a title because titles are for people still trying to prove where they stand. You are 71 years old, 47 years inside the machine. Stakes in 5 funds, 2 private banks, and a Bermuda reinsurance vehicle. 3 central bank governors know you by your first name, not because you control monetary policy, but because information flows both ways now. You are too close to the center to see the edge anymore. Your committee deploys across sovereign debt, infrastructure, equity, distressed credit, and currency carry structures in 14 markets. Total assets under management sit above $90 billion, though the exact number is known to only 4 people. You are one of them. The number does not excite you anymore. That is the frightening part. A fortune large enough to bend countries has become paperwork. You do not trade your position. Trading is for people responding to the market. Positioning is for people who arrive before the market understands what is happening. 2 years before the headlines, you see a currency block drifting toward liquidity stress. You do not trigger the crisis. You simply structure around it, quietly, patiently, like a man moving furniture before a storm no one else can smell. When the stress finally hits, your funds gain. The press calls it brilliant risk management. Some call it foresight. A few call it luck. You say nothing. You know the truth is colder than all of that. You did not predict the future like a prophet. You just had access to enough fragments of the present to see the shape forming before everyone else had names for it. This is the cost nobody described when you were 23. Not the hours, not the debt, not the missed birthdays or the canceled vacations. The real cost is that trust becomes a scarce asset. Fewer than 10 people in the world know enough of your life for you to speak freely. Beyond that circle, every conversation is filtered, measured, softened, or weaponized. You have more access than anyone you grew up with can understand, and almost no one you can explain it to. Your old friends ask if you are happy. Your family asks if you are resting. People admire the life from a distance, but distance is the only angle from which it still looks clean. Up close, it is a locked room with beautiful furniture and no exits. You are too embedded to be removed now. The system would cost more to dismantle than to keep. That sounds like power when said by people outside the room. But inside it feels different. It feels quieter, colder, more permanent. Power still suggests choice. What you have is closer to gravity, and gravity does not ask whether it should pull things down. A boardroom in Geneva, 4 people. No agenda on the table. No presentation on the screen. No assistants, no press, no decorative performance of importance. You speak for approximately 6 minutes. You do not raise your voice. You do not persuade. You simply describe what should happen next. And when you stop speaking, the room begins moving around your words. Somewhere else, far below this level, in a glass tower in a city that never stops moving, a 23-year-old opens a terminal for the very first time. His badge says analyst first year. His coffee is already cold. His debt already feels too large. He thinks the game is about salary, stamina, and being smart enough to survive the week. He does not know yet that the system rewards something stranger. It rewards silence at the right time, loyalty before friendship, relationships over accuracy, access over brilliance, executability over goodness, perspective over truth. He does not know the machine is not testing whether he can make money. It is testing what kind of person he will become to stand near it. The terminal blinks. The market opens. Somewhere, a number moves. A deal begins. A memo gets drafted. A pension gets renamed. A currency gets watched. And another young person tells himself this is only temporary. You used to believe that too. Then you climbed every level of financial power and discovered the darkest truth of all: the machine does not just use people. It teaches them to call it ambition.